I'd like to welcome all of you today to our first meeting of 2019. It's obviously an exciting time for me. And this morning, and all meetings, even committee meetings, I'd like to begin with the pledge and a prayer. And Mary Jean, would you lead us in the pledge? Pastor Heath.
You want prayer first or pledge?
Pledge, please.
I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's pray. God, we just thank you so much for this holiday season. God, we thank you for this new year that is upon us. And God, that we celebrate your goodness over this city and your grace towards all of us. God, thank you for these positions you put us in. Give us wisdom to lead and to guide the people. God, be with our servants, our civil servants, our police and fire, those who protect us, those who watch over us. God, we just thank you for this new year, and we ask your blessings upon 2019. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you. You all be seated. The ones that are going to be sworn in this morning, you would stand at this time. And I will read to you the pledge. And when I say your name, say your name. And then at the end, we will ask for the office of, and you will state your office. Yours will be different. And, raise your right hand. I state your name.
I, Bill Boswell,
Do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and Constitution of the State of Arkansas,
and the Constitution of the State of Arkansas,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of,
and I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of Alderman Harrison, position 1.
upon which I am now about to enter.
Of which I am now about to enter.
Congratulations. You may be seated.
Thank you.
Roll call.
Chris Head. Present. Mary Jean Krieger.
Present.
Mitch Magnus. Present. Linda DeWall.
Present.
Bill Boswell.
Present.
Heath Kirkpatrick. Present. Joel Williams. Present. Wayne Combs.
Present.
Okay. At this time, we turn it over to you to conduct the business of the council.
And to help spur things along, I have given you all a copy of the last year's standing committees, just for your records, because half the time can't remember which one's on what. And then I have also included a worksheet at your station that you can kind of fill in the blanks as we go as to who wants to do what. This is your opportunity to organize yourselves as a council. And then one other thing while I'm talking, your oath of office that you've got at your place. Sometime during the meeting, if you would, just sign that and get it back to me at the end of the meeting. So if you want to go down the list, you're welcome to, or however you want to do it.
Well, the first one's the committee and environment, service, and welfare. Do you want that?
Yes.
Joel?
Any objection to that, or Joel?
Would they dare on the first thing?
I'm just checking with you. Are there any members that would like to serve on that committee?
I will. We need more than just me and Joel, because we wouldn't be able to decide anything.
We really need about 3.
I was just ask for
At
that
least.
normal number, 3 or 4.
I mean,
Normally about 3 or 4 on
Yeah.
the committee.
I'll serve.
he, was that he?
Yes.
Need need one more maybe?
I'll work on it.
Okay.
Linda, did you want that one too? heard
If we
you
have
speak
4,
up, I
I
didn't
started 2. Wayne, do you wanna take that? You wanna be on
Yeah, I
that
wanna
committee?
take it, but we
Okay.
have one.
Yeah, you can have more than
Okay.
three. yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
sure.
It
You
doesn't
wanna be on
have
that
to be
then?
3.
It's just an area of interest that you guys are interested in having a part in of the city, an emphasis of study and concerns.
Yeah, I would like to be on that committee as well.
The finance chairman,
Okay, finance chairman, I was, been that in this role the last 4 years. If anybody would like to take it, welcome to it.
I think you need to stay right there.
Second
There you
motion.
go.
Okay.
all the council is members.
Well, that's how we've done it in the past. I would say that we need to make sure that, the current
But you
council
all wanna do that.
want to do that. You may not want to serve on that, but in the past, it was 3 years ago, we decided that all 8 members, so.
It saves time.
Yep. So agreed, okay, all 8
Why?
members.
Yes.
Okay. Internal affairs, last year was,
Mr. Oaf.
Mr. O, and, that would be your committee if you decide to take it.
I was gonna look to get on parks down here, and do that. So
Well, Parks would be a liaison.
Yeah, right.
So this is simply, and you can serve on, currently I serve on 3 committees.
Okay. Yeah, I'll fill John's shoes on it. I certainly will.
So Linda will take the chairmanship. I would like to serve on that committee as well.
Also myself.
We need at least one more, anybody else?
I'll do it. No harassment from you. And I want public safety again. And I've already contacted some people, and Linda and Wayne and Heath have agreed to serve on that committee, which I'm very pleased with. We have fire, police, and a neutral.
There you go.
And I can't decide which one's which.
And I'll stay with you if you want.
Fine. And I also do the cemetery. I like that one.
I think that's good.
Okay, so on public safety, we have Mary Jean as the chairperson.
Yes.
We
Linda.
have Linda DeWalt, Heath
Wayne.
Kirkpatrick, Wayne Jones, who else?
And Joel.
Joel.
Okay, I
Okay.
didn't think you
Joel, yeah. Who ended up on our internal affairs committee?
Magnus, Boswell, and Krieger.
With Linda DeWalt as chair.
Got it.
Right.
Next is Public Works, and previously that would have been Ryan Oswald.
And I'll be glad to chair that again,
Okay.
especially with the issues of water going on.
Anybody for that one?
I'll take on that one.
I'd like to be on that.
Me too. Chris? Chris, you on there? Joel, just.
Cone, Head, and Williams so far. Okay. Any more? Resources and policy.
Mr. Head.
That's been me. I would like to continue in that role.
I'll second the motion.
Me too.
I would like to serve on that committee.
I'll serve as well.
No, we'll too.
Who else?
Got Magnus, Kirkpatrick, and Williams so far.
I'll serve on it.
And Cone.
I've been there.
Yep. Okay. Your planning liaison has been Mr. Williams. Continue that, you want to continue that?
What's that?
Planning commission.
As the Parks liaison last year, my schedule did not allow me to attend all meetings.
Could you attend part of it?
Part of them, but I would defer to the mayor. He and I had a discussion, and I think he has some ideas there.
Yeah, I had spoke with several people, and most of you have obligations during the day. Except for, let's see, Mary Jean's, you're already on there, which you're doing without the obligations. And Linda, I think Linda would be really good on there, so if you all
I can
consider
look
her.
at the schedule.
We can do that.
Yeah,
Linda and I can handle
I
that.
think so. Mitch has been on there for so long.
Yeah.
And
I
done
served
an
on the
excellent
commission for
job.
13 years,
Yeah.
and generally that's just one person on that as a liaison.
Oh, is that right? Yeah, that's right. She comes
Yeah,
to
it's
the
just one.
meetings. She used to call
She comes to
me
the meeting,
and
but
tell me to come to the meetings.
CVB is two.
You're correct. It's Linda.
Yeah.
It's all Linda. She would see.
I just like to know what's going on.
Thanks, Mayor.
But yeah,
Nothing wrong with that.
Linda, I'll let you.
Thank you, Mayor.
You're
You're
welcome.
good to me.
And I want the perpetual care.
Oh, yeah.
No objections?
no objection.
No.
None.
I like cemeteries.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's lots of good people there.
Never mind, old friend. I had a line, never mind.
Right. Daisy Bites.
She's down here sound asleep.
Okay. And then to
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
CNTPC?
Yeah, CATPC. You have,
the
right now, you have Mary Jean and Heath.
Is that okay with you, Matt?
I love it. Good.
Good sound.
Okay.
And I think Wayne Combs made good mayor pro temp. He used to be at one time.
Okay, that's up to you folks.
I'll make that motion.
One second.
Thank you for your trust. And I can do it.
Okay. Excellent.
Is the mayor pro tem not also the substitute mayor?
No, in the past, that had been Jeff Pratt. I think Jeff.
Jeff,
Jeff Pratt, the elected. I think we all appreciate Jeff at everything he does, so I'd like to see Jeff do that again.
I'll go along with that too.
Okay, your meeting days. Do you want to
I like
leave them
it.
as they are?
I like it the way it is. Second.
Y'all good with that?
Yes.
Okay, so committee the second Thursday, and council the fourth.
Yes.
Do you all have any problems with maybe meeting a little longer than you're used to if we have to?
Yeah.
You do?
I like the
Yeah,
way
I
it
do.
We have been there before.
I mean,
longer than 20 minutes?
Hey,
Same time?
okay,
6
Yes.
o'clock.
same time, same day.
Christine and I added the next two things for your considerations. The agenda deadlines and how firm you want the agenda deadline. You know, at one point, the agenda, all the items for the agenda had to be turned in by Friday prior to the meeting. And sometimes emergencies come up and you have to add them to the agenda. There's ways to handle it, and we need to know what your preferences are, and how rigid you want. So if somebody comes in on Tuesday or Wednesday and they have an idea they want to pitch to the council, do we let them enter into the agenda at the last minute, or do we say that the council would prefer that you take it to committee and then to your, it needs to go through committee before it comes to your formal council meeting?
I've spoken to numerous council members, Mr. Boswell and I spoke at length at this. One of the things that happens when we come to council is often we're presented with stuff with a very short time to review it. And that would be my biggest concern in that regard, is making sure that we have enough time that we can review that, get a little bit of input from the constituents, and just generally consider it the information.
Well,
I think I would like to take that a step farther. I think sometimes we have been guilty of adopting emergency clauses when emergency clauses weren't necessary. Part of the process of serving on this organization is also let the people that vote us in, that let their voice be heard. That's the reason there's 3 readings of a ordinance to be adopted. Very few times, matter of fact, I can remember of maybe only one where a true emergency had to happen and it be approved, but it was easier to go ahead and do it quickly instead of doing it correctly. So, and that kind of goes hand in hand with this, is that that's the reason we have committees. That's the reason we need to discuss this around this table with this group. That's also the same reason we need to offer the opportunity for people to come and make their proposals, pitches, whatever the case may be, to the council in committee, not at a council meeting where they also expect an answer. Because frankly, I'm not going to give them the answer they want that night. It doesn't bother me to speak. If you say no, when it's not necessarily against it, but it's a timing issue, we need to review what's going on. We don't need to be back into a corner.
I couldn't agree more.
Right.
And we often make emotional, it's been a comment made that we often are dealt with emotional issues and we don't have time to review.
And there's always an exception. You have to realize that it makes no difference what kind of rule of law we establish. There's always an exception. All I gotta do is look at our own federal government right now. They're an exception from the get-go, so.
you know, typically if the agenda is set and you guys decide that's the way you want to conduct your business, because we hear it on the admin side that you're frustrated because you didn't have time to review something. So we need to know from you what you want us to say. When somebody comes in and says, hey, I want to talk to the council on Thursday night, well, you need to go through the procedural steps. Or in the event of an emergency type thing, the other thing that I've been in organizations where once the agenda is set, there's no changing the agenda except by vote of the majority of the governing body at the beginning of the meeting. You know, if someone wants to be added to the agenda, you are asked that there is an item that is being asked to be added to the agenda. Do you want to, you only bring it in if you guys vote to discuss it. But I know you get frustrated, because I hear it, when I didn't have time to go over it, to look at things, why is this being, you know, and so we just need to know, it's your meeting, so you decide how you want to run it.
On the agenda deadlines, my feelings on it is everything on the agenda dealing with business of the city needs to go to committee first. Any event, it is an emergency, then I'm in total agreement with what you just said, call the meeting to order. let them present to the council what they need discussed that night, and let the council vote on whether we're gonna hear it and make a decision on it that night or not. Personally, I think that's the way it needs to be handled.
So what day are you
Everything general
saying?
goes through
for
the
the cutoff?
committee before agenda.
Friday's what we
Friday.
discussed, the 5 days.
You like Friday? I think
Friday before
Friday
meet on
would be good.
Tuesday?
No, Thursday.
Or, excuse me, on Thursday? That's, yeah.
Should be more than enough time.
Does everybody get their agendas electronically, or do they wait for them in the mail?
They're not mailed.
But there's a reason I'm asking, it's a timing situation.
Yeah. They all go out
Because-
electronically.
I agree with what Wayne says. My issue is this: when we walk in here on Thursday evening for a council meeting, committee I'm not so concerned about, because that's really what the job of the committee is to discuss these things. But when we walk in here on Thursday evening for a council meeting and we have a surprise, which happened many times when I was on before, and happened many times the previous 2 years, of business that needed to be conducted at the council meeting that really didn't need to be. But this way, we've got everybody involved in that fact that, are we going to make an exception as a group? Do we say yea or nay?
I don't think we allow them to present at council at all. I think that they give us some sort of written, you know, whether they want to do it, and the mayor brings it up, we vote right then based on what we've been given.
So the presentation can be written or verbal, either one probably, but we're not gonna let them stand up
I mean, it
and
can be
talk for 30 minutes.
You can, you know, like I say, the reason I say that, I don't even want them to have access publicly until we decide that we're gonna hear it. So I mean, if they stand up and say, I wanna talk about the dog ordinance, there's a lot of people that might wanna discuss that too, but they haven't come to the council.
I think the proper thing would be is if someone wants to be added to the agenda, we just give you a one-liner that Matt Bell would like to be added to the agenda to discuss an item that's coming up next week with CATPC. And then you guys vote whether or not you're gonna listen to him or not.
I'm gonna need more than 5 minutes.
I'm telling you right now, that's one you wanna read.
Why did he single you out, man?
If we're
But
not,
then why did you call like 5 timeouts the other day in 2 minutes up there at the college?
he had a thing. I think, and I'm in agreement with Mitch on the written part of it, but if it's gonna be presented to us on paper prior to us making a decision, I think it's a situation where we need detailed information on what we're gonna be talking about.
Agreed.
A one-liner, if you can do it one-liner is fine, but if it takes a half a page to tell us what they're wanting to stand there and tell us, we need to know up front.
And that's fine, I just didn't want to be the other side where we're letting Matt come up and tell you what he wants, because you're gonna get the whole spiel,
Yeah, and then some.
you know? I'm glad Matt showed
Well,
up.
and they're exactly right. They're exactly right. It's not a time to present, it's not a time to present, it's an opportunity for them to say, we want to discuss this.
And on Matt, it's not a tell, he needs to ask us, not
I'm gonna walk.
Aren't you glad you came, Matt?
Oh, boy, am I. You know, I've learned, allowing something on the agenda doesn't seem to be a problem as much as doing the emergency clause, and then we made a decision that night when the public had no idea.
That's exactly right.
So that's
Yes.
the big deal. I think if you allow it on the agenda, you know, when people come in with emotional things, you're gonna allow it on the agenda. I know you are.
There's
But
always
it's that
an exception.
emergency clause that's, that I feel is important.
So you have enough information there?
Well, I am assuming that the minutes would reflect that everything is to get from the, everything that's conducting city business is to go through committee unless allowed, an exception by the vote of the council.
majority vote.
Majority vote.
Simple majority vote,
Recommend.
51, 50 plus 1.
That good with everybody?
Yes.
And Friday will be the deadline? Your agendas will go out in your email, in your city emails.
Friday, what time?
maybe noon on Friday.
Sounds good.
That will be a little bit of a learning curve
For everybody.
for the public and for the city, you know, for city departments even. To work the committee more than the council meeting.
Well, as Mr. Boswell pointed out, that's where we really get everything done. Council is generally, we considered it, we're gonna make the salient points, and then we're going to vote. The real work is done in committee.
Exactly.
So that's the place to show up.
Meeting agenda.
Oh, yeah. You have, Municipal League sent out a deal where you have the ability to, in the past, we felt like we did not have the ability to, for lack of a better word, penalize yourselves for lack of attendance. It's up to you guys. You have to set the policy. You know, for instance, the quorum court, they're paid by the meeting, which we're a little bit different. You're just paid a flat fee. But if you quit coming, do you guys want to impose set a policy that, you know, there's
I'd say 2 consecutive meetings and without a doctor's statement. Not, I'm calling in sick because I don't want to put up with Jerry thing. Wow. I'd say 2 consecutive meetings without a doctor's statement, and you don't get your money. It's not that much anyway, but I like it.
Before we say that, I think we need to ask the attorney, since we are elected officials, whether we can do that or not.
The attorney in me is a little skeptical to put rules on things like that. I mean, you're elected, like Wayne said, the people elected you, and if they're not happy with your performance, they can not vote on you to continue your term. I just wonder if it's not adding another rule to police something that may not be an issue. I don't know. I don't have enough experience. I haven't sat on as a city attorney before, so I don't know if there's been a problem with attendance, but
Yes.
if there has been, perhaps a rule needs to be in place.
If I might, and I defer to Mitch for a second because of his current position on the school board. Even though we're paid officials, we're still voted on just like school board members are. The school board has a policy in place that if you miss so many meetings, the board can declare a vacancy and appoint new. Now, deferring to our attorney too, we may be talking about 2 different issues because of school boards and city council officials.
Also, school boards are governed a little bit by the Department of Education. There's some training guidelines and attendance guidelines there. School board's an unpaid position, so there's no pay involved. Generally, my understanding is that in our discussions, it's different for any other official, since it's not got some oversight by the state of Arkansas Department of Education, that you can't remove a public official.
Yeah, that's generally the law, that there are certain reasons you can remove them, but malfeasance is the legal word, but I'm not sure that.
Right. So we can't even fill the position, as I understand it.
Pay would be a much safer legal.
The governor
if there was a pay issue.
Usually off a recommendation, but the governor anyway.
Does the rest of our city workers get paid if they don't come to work? I think the answer is no.
They don't, but again, it's a different, as I understand it, and I'm certainly not an attorney, but it was explained to us that you're not an employee, you're an elected official. You're not an employee of the city of Harrison, even though you get paid. You're an elected official, and that's.
Municipal League sent this out as part of your organization of governing body, Arkansas Code 1443-501 says the governing body may compel the attendance of absent members in such a manner and under such penalties as it prescribes. It's one of the steps in your governing body organizational meeting.
You know what I would do here is either internal affairs or resources and policy committees review this individually and take a look and make a recommendation to council.
Linda, the ball's in your court.
I just realized that,
Welcome to the council.
It can be Chris or that committee, either one, but I mean, let the mayor even give input to that. But I think that rather than making a decision today, we should look at this and make a recommendation, review what other cities are doing, make sure from a legality standpoint.
Yeah, we won't be the first one that would have addressed it or has dealt with it.
Exactly.
We just need to have our ducks in a row as to when it comes time for us to act on it.
I think that's a great idea, and look hard at deducting, I like that pay idea.
I have one more procedural question for you, how you want to handle your ordinance voting. The previous administration liked ordinances to be done each step by roll call. In the past, we've done roll call whenever there was a question of, dissenting votes. If there were no dissenting votes, it was not handled by a roll call vote. Do you want to continue the way we've been doing it the last 4 years and roll call vote each step, or do you want to call for the vote, and then if there's a dissenting vote, then do a roll call?
For sure, the safer route is the roll call. I know we've been before, we've seen that there was a dispute later after the fact, who said what, but.
Some things require a roll call vote anyway, so rather than having to judge what does and doesn't, it might be the safest bet to simply
There
do
you
a
go.
roll call.
Do you want to continue the rotational,
I think
every vote?
Yes. As long as Mary Jean brings chocolate chip cookies, she can always be first. Oh,
No cookies for you.
she's your boss. No bacon.
In the past, you have, or not you guys, but in previous administrations, there have been guidelines for citizens' comments as far as like timeframes and things. Do you want, the last one, we did not have that. The mayor just tried to direct that or control that if it got carried away? Or do you want a time frame?
Yes.
Let's get the mayor's input on things.
I think I'm good either way. We know there's a few people that'll get up there and talk forever, and I can control that, or we can set a time frame.
what I'd like to see
I don't
too,
think that matters.
Mr. Mayor, like when we're in committee, what I would try and do is if there was someone I wanted to hear, I would tell them, I would give them the floor. And then I would, after a certain period, I'd say, okay, I think we've heard enough. And,
Sure.
we've got.
I can do that, Bill, and you're welcome to do it also.
Oh, no, I had. It doesn't bother me in the slightest,
I
but,
understand.
I think a time frame too. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever the case may be.
5 minutes.
In committee might be, we're talking about in a council meeting. Yeah, for citizens' comments, yes. In committee, I guess, the chairman's in charge of that particular committee, and we can stop them whenever, if we've heard enough, or whatever the case may be. But
I do agree with the time limit in council.
I went to an AML meeting a couple of weeks ago, and the attorney that was in control of that meeting recommended 3 minutes for them to be able to talk, with exceptions, depending on what they're talking about.
Bill and I can barely say hello in 3 minutes.
That sounds like Matt Bell.
Sure, Paul.
Oh, man.
I would suggest a 5-minute limit
Yeah.
at council, if that's all right with you.
Okay. Whatever you all decide. This is-
Now, can I ask you a question at this point? And this only comes to my mind because of kind of what I'm dealing with here personally, because I may have to be out at a later point in time. What does the state of Arkansas allow in regard to attending meetings electronically? And today, with today's technology, there's, you know, if some of these guys have to travel away, there's very seldom a time when we don't have a computer with us where you can come up and Jeff can put the individual up on the screen if it's allowed inside our system. But I'm asking, if somebody's going to be out, whether it be for illness, surgery, family, business, can they connect on council meeting? Committees would be hard to do.
Can I comment on that?
Yes.
You asked about the school board. We're allowed to call in, they give us a password, the electronic means, and then when we connect in, we give them that password, they open us up to the meeting. We can attend the meeting and vote in a open session.
Right, cannot do executive.
Can do it in executive, but we can attend a meeting remotely via phone.
But that was also.
Or Skype.
And the reason I ask you is because it affected me, because at the time I was traveling a lot. And I was in Fort Dix, New Jersey at the time, and they conducted a council meeting and allowed me to sit in while I was in Fort Dix.
Now you can even listen in on an executive meeting. You can't comment and you cannot vote, but you can listen in on an
But
executive.
I only asked because I brought it up before, it was kind of shot down, I understand, but technology has changed too considerably. And I don't know what's allowed, and it may be something that Grant's got to, you know, chime in on. That if we're absent from a meeting, but we can connect back in electronically, whether it be through, you know, Facebook would not be the most secure method to connect back in with, but there's plenty of them out there that would allow you to connect back in for a meeting, whether they could see you or only hear you.
Even if it was just audio.
Right. I only ask if that is an option if we have, because a lot of these guys may be, and gals may be gone, but they could connect back in the evening.
I can look into it from a legal standpoint. I've heard it talked about before, but I don't know whether Arkansas is doing this.
Well, you know, and I kind of look at it like this, having worked for a short period of time at FedEx and Memphis at FedEx, it was nothing at FedEx to conduct business
Every day.
every day, and nobody was in Harrison. They were scattered all over the United States.
I know that in one of our perpetual care meetings, we had a member that could not be here, but we were advised that he could listen in, but he could not vote.
Right. And that's, we need to find out the answer.
And that,
I would be interested in that, and that's for everybody here, because
but they could participate, but they could not vote.
Mitch, how often does people do that with the
The school board?
school board?
3 or 4 times a year. I've done it 3 or 4 times a year.
Okay.
yeah.
Naturally, it's something we want to discourage.
Sure, it's not meant to be a scapegoat,
Right.
it's meant to be a tool. Yeah, if you don't want to show up, you don't get paid type deal, you know, so you tune in electronically. That's not the idea.
That's what, the time I did it, I was working for FedEx and I was in Pittsburgh. And I just called into the meeting and, you know, listened in and that was it.
I think this is something our attorney needs to check into and see if we can do it. Because to me, it would depend on what we're gonna be voting on. Because if we're gonna be voting on something real serious, I would rather have the person here at this table.
I don't think you can differentiate though, of what level is important and not.
But I know, but that's what I'm
I
saying.
hear
If
what
we
you're
were
saying,
voting on
but
something
I don't
serious,
think you can differentiate that. You're either gonna say we can or we can't. And I'm okay with either one, that's all I'm saying. That's not my point. But you can't, you know, because again, if we have an emergency come up and we have to handle it at a council meeting and somebody's on the road, everybody's gonna be involved, including the guy on the road.
Well, we also need to know if that counts towards the quorum.
Right,
Right.
exactly, and that's equally as important. That's equally as
So the
important, yeah.
quorum may be here without that.
Yeah, if it doesn't count as a quorum, it's kind of a moot issue.
It doesn't for school board.
It did when I sat, because I voted,
All right, take that right, because you have to be able to vote.
yeah, in the open session.
In the open session.
Okay. Brian's gonna check into that.
Didn't mean to get you sidetracked there. That was my 5 minutes of citizen
I
comment.
think we already discussed the other stuff. Now we're down to your.
Okay, I get to introduce a few people this morning. I want to first introduce my wife. Hey, she's sitting over there. She's going to wonder why I haven't said much, and I'm not supposed to say anything according to him. So, but now I get a little bit of opportunity here.
I don't normally hear him this quiet.
I want to introduce two people that I have chosen to help lead the city over this next 4 years. First, I want to introduce Mark Lowry. Would you stand, please? Mark has, most of you know Mark. Mark has been with the city before. He worked on fire code enforcement. I got to work with him a lot on that. And I also got to work with Mark when he was fire chief last time. And unfortunately, he left about 4 years ago and showed a desire to return, a big desire. He actually campaigned very hard for the position. But in selecting Mark, we had 3 other extremely capable chiefs. So I was sitting there with a situation of 4 people, and I know nothing about fire. So I did something a little unusual. We asked the firefighters to help choose. And it was overwhelming choice of Mark. So hopefully the fact that they helped choose Mark, that things might go a little smoother sometimes over in the fire department. But
Well, Mayor, Council, thank you for having me, and I do look forward to serving with you all and working to make the city as good as we can. Obviously, I'll be bringing a lot of stuff to the council at some point. You know, there's always things that you look, especially being here once before, and then kind of a hindsight thing, you go, I should have probably done that last time. So, but again, I'm real anxious to work with you all, work with Randy as well, and then I'll shut up because I know Matt wants to talk later.
if I could have a motion to approve Mark.
So moved.
Chief.
Second.
Right. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any against? Opposed? Nobody? Okay, Mark, welcome back. All right, Chris Craddock. This is going to be interesting, folks, because this was very unusual for me. It was only about 6 months before the election that I realized that I would want to make a change. And when I came up with that, I had no clue on where to look. So I reached out to a lot of the previous law enforcement people that have retired in the area. And I'd give them 6 or 7 names, and Chris Grady kept coming up. And I thought about Chris. I didn't know Chris. I knew his wife, Crystal. I think most of us know Crystal. Everybody knows Chris. I didn't realize that. But I recalled back, and this is something that Chris has not heard me say, and you think of this as being minor, but it was very important to me. There's a couple things I witnessed with Chris, and 6 months prior to the election, I was at a restaurant, and the State Patrol were there. And Chris made it a point, while we were waiting, to get up and open the door for everybody that walked in.
His mama raised him right.
I thought, wow, that's pretty cool. So that was in the back of my mind. I had no idea, didn't really even know who he was. And then during 9/11, you know, that's a very important ceremony that takes place over at the fire department, and they do a very professional job. Chris attended, and he stood next to me, and he was standing at attention during the whole thing with his Smokey Bear hat on. And that, not everybody was at attention like he was. And so that said something very important. But after we got into the interview process, and I brought up narcotics, and you know that was a very important part of my platform. Chris is very, very passionate about narcotics, and he's got some ideas to move us in another direction in regards to that. So I was extremely excited about that. So with that said, I really couldn't believe that we had an opportunity to have both of these individuals. And I mean that, I'm just not blowing smoke. We have now got 5 department heads, 5 of the absolutely best you could ever imagine. And I think as time goes on, you'll see more out of Chris. So. If you have any questions for him.
I don't know what else I can add to that. That was pretty good. I am Chris Grady. I've lived here most of my life, other than college. And 2 years I worked for Logan County Sheriff's Department. I actually started here in 1987 as a radio operator. Councilman Cone was my sergeant, so I used to ride with him quite a bit back in the day. And I think when I left, you were chief. So I've got a lot of fond memories of here, and as I said, this is my home, and I've been in law enforcement a little over 30 years. The last 23 was with the Arkansas State Police here, Troop I here in Harrison. I was retired as a corporal yesterday.
Oh, wow.
So I'm starting my new career today. Appreciate Mayor Jackson, appreciate the City Council putting their trust in me. It's going to be a new experience. I've spoken to both of my division commanders, CID commander, patrol commander, and my assistant chief, John Kay. I've known those men for several years. I've worked with them while I've been a trooper here, and I look forward to working with them, and their experience is very important, and that's something that I will lean on until I kind of get on my feet. And narcotics, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I tried to find a percentage. I couldn't find a recent one. I know at one time they said that most of your property crimes are 75 to 80% related to the narcotics business or narcotic trade. And if we can take care of that, maybe we can take care of some people's property while we do that. So, I'm looking forward to that challenge. Thank you very much.
Excellent.
Councilmember Cone to make that motion.
I so moved. And I want to say something along with my motion. Everybody in this room probably knows how long I've been in law enforcement and carried the badge. These 2 guys right here are 2 of the best guys I've ever worked beside in my life. I watched Chris grow up from being a little bitty boy at Valley Springs, and I've known Mark for years. We couldn't have 2 better guys sitting right here.
And I second that motion.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you. We go on to my comment. There's a few things I do want to say. We are close to closing here, but you might notice my daughter is in the mayor's office painting the walls right now. I wanted them a flat color. We're also, thanks to friends and family, we're going to be adding some new furniture in there. I want to assure you that none of that will be paid for with city funds. I also want to hand something out to you, and I have been warned that we cannot conduct any business that's not on the agenda. So I want you to take this with you, and I wasn't planning on discussing it today anyway, but we can discuss this if necessary over the next couple of weeks or at the first committee meeting. This is what I have prepared as a 6-month list of goals. It starts with my mission statement. And the mission statement is to work with the council, other city leaders, and volunteers to make Harrison one of the best small towns in America. And the rest are my goals for the next 6 months. So if you have any questions, we can answer them at the first council meeting. I also want to share with you that one of my hopes was to be able to move City Hall somewhere else. I think over the years, several mayors have wanted to do that. They haven't had the funds. By the way, Mark was chief when they were broke. Now that he's back, they have a public safety tax that allows them to have some funds. But we now have the ability to maybe put some funds in that area of moving City Hall. And strange as it might seem, the opportunity came up recently for us to possibly own the Duran Center. Most of the council members, I've kind of shared that with them. We haven't talked a whole lot about it. There's a lot that we need to talk. I've got a financial statement on right now. I foresee us being able to move city operations into the water and administration and all of that into the facility with minor alterations over there. It does have a minor mold problem in that area, but it's minor compared to the other. And it appears that they will probably have to remove the tower. That's not made a decision. If they do remove the tower, we would like to consider moving police headquarters there and building a new police headquarters. So, with that being said, during the first meeting, and in the meantime, if you have any questions, please reach out to me and we can talk more. We can go tour it if you would like. But I'll have a little more information at that time. And that's all I have. Do we have anything from the audience?
Mr. Mayor, before the audience says anything, could I make a statement about this council?
Please.
I've served now for 4 years, and one of the things that I've grown to learn and appreciate the most is the fact that each member that I've served with in the previous administration, the previous city attorney, I've been amazed at how cordial, and even when we disagree, that we leave that here, and I find them to be completely understanding of my position. And one of the strongest arguments that I ever had was with Brian Herring, and he and I would constantly argue about it, but I have found him to be one of my dearest friends.
My favorite pastor.
Wow.
Mark, do you know CPR? Tourniquet, you know.
But to continue that thought, even Mr. Kirkpatrick, again, the atmosphere here is one of professional agreement and professional disagreement, and so I appreciate that out of council, and I hope that that continues. I will say that with the two members across from me that both appear on the radio at times, I will be saying, somebody turn that darn radio down.
Yeah.
Why are we getting zinged over here?
Anyway, that's all I have.
Yeah. I've sat here for probably 6 years at council meetings, and I've watched the city council, and when I look at these 8 people, I don't think we're going to have a problem with them showing up. I think we're going to have, of course, the best council that we've ever had. So, anything else, sir? You're kind of in charge.
On the meeting date you got up there,
On the 10th?
That's January 24th.
January.
I forgot to cut and paste. I forgot to change my December.
Okay, anything now from the, Matt? Rick? Rick?
I got
Thank
enough
you.
time if you're only gonna give me 3 minutes, Mayor. Might as well keep quiet.
I want to thank Rick Schoenberger again for a fabulous year down at the square for the lights. She said that, Matt.
Matt is a friend of mine.
We've given Matt too much.
And he was up on top of the building and He was not happy.
Believe me, if he's not mentioned in that, the last time when I came in and thanked you guys, and I thanked everybody in the room, the only person I forgot was him.
Was him?
And I heard about it for a week after.
But you made me come. All right, if there's nothing else,
Chief Judge.
motion to adjourn,
So
Move.
second?